The Klaus Tschira Foundation has been supporting this ongoing series on knowledge in space for the last 10 years. This year's focus in the series on knowledge in space is on the role of governance in the spatiality of human knowledge. We all know this has been an ongoing topic in this series, that knowledge is very unequally distributed across space, and governance, we believe, plays a crucial role here. The relationship between governance and knowledge is really reflexive, because on the one hand, we need better knowledge in order to enact better governance solutions to all kinds of collective problems. But on the other hand, governance is also a coordinating mechanism in order to create knowledge and to have knowledge shared across a wide variety of people. So governance is an important mechanism in order to overcome geographical differences in knowledge.
Increasingly in manufacturing areas, there's a movement away from command and control, top-down hierarchical authority, where the top delivers instructions to the workplace actors, and they are moving toward a more dialogic or interactive form of governance in which capabilities and knowledge of the different functional areas is taken more into account in the construction of performance targets and even in the way in which the product is designed. The strategy there, the interest there is to be able to maximize experimentation and to sort of have the organization be more continuously innovative.
I think today the changes that we see globally and locally are so rapid and they're so novel, and so the speed at which we respond to new knowledge needs to increase. We need to be much more adaptive, and we need to be able to bring knowledge into governance much more quickly. We cannot wait for scientific concepts to mature 20 years before they're picked up by policymakers. So we need to find new ways of bringing knowledge to governance, and this is what the topic is about in my mind.
Once you start to think about what would require to live on a very isolated island, where resources from year to year are variable, you realize that anything that would potentially bring people together is going to have a positive effect. So the answer to the paradox really is that the answer that the statues themselves were very important and key to the survival of people on Eastern Islands. That's the lesson we've learned, which means that if we sort of think about cases in our own future, we need to be thinking about things like statues that bring people together in communities when things are risky. So as climate change starts to impact populations, where there's more uncertainty about the nature of resources, the more we can bring a community together, the more likely resilient that population will be. So we can start to engineer that within our own communities and use this Easter Island as a lesson.
Effective risk governance really means that we include first different models, that means also different views on reality without making it arbitrary. And secondly, to include the different value systems in society to make sure that whatever we do in terms of management reflect the plurality of values in the society. And those to deal with different types of knowledge and to synthesize it and to cope with plurality of values is the one thing that we need to get together and we need to resolve in risk management.
In the literature, governance is discussed as a mechanism to coordinate collective action. And when we talk about Chile, for example, in the context of Chile, market mechanisms are omnipresent. They are called governance, market governance. When we try to establish that governance can be something else as market governance, our students, for example, have wide eyes and they are quite curious to understand what else can be governance. When we then start to tell them that within a governance process, yes, there can be the use of market mechanisms, they start to criticize us because they do not want to hear that. They want to understand governance as something else, as markets. We have to explain the value of governance because governance means something new. Changing, for example, rules of interactions, coordinating collective action, and that's what we teach in Chile.
In cases that have a strong public policy component, like sustainability, renewable energies, etc., the market will not create enough incentives to develop the radical alternatives by itself. So the state or government has a strong role in initiating these developments and supporting the processes. How to do it exactly and where the limits are, that's, let's say, a matter of research, but it's hardly conceivable that these problems will be solved just by the market by itself.
It's a wonderful opportunity to meet so many scholars from different fields interested in the same topic. And I love the format that we get to present 30 minutes and then have a 30-minute intellectual dialogue.
So rarely as an academic do you get a chance to intimately work and talk with people who are doing a variety of different things from very different approaches, but on common themes. All too often it's just specialists talking to specialists where you're just talking about the details, or it's so big in a general sense that you really never get a chance to personally interact with literally everybody in the symposium. And this symposium really exemplifies it, sort of the way academics should really be working.